Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
Lockout appears to be coming to an end, finally. And that means we're about to see a roster construction period that is likely to get pretty crazy. A few weeks back, I released a 40-plus minute episode of The Frieze. It's the official audio podcast of NYY Recaps. It, of course, has a video component in which I broke down the state of the roster position by position. And it's worth a watch if you want to take a deeper dive into the current Yankees roster. I will link it at the end of this video. This video can be considered the cliff notes to that piece, and a look at the roster options that await Brian Cashman as he attempts to patch the holes in this roster that led to an early playoff exit last season. It won't be easy, but if the Yankees manage to pull this off, it'll be quite an accomplishment. But again, nobody celebrates climbing a grassy slope. We celebrate climbing mountains. And the Yankees have a lot of teams they need to pass if they want to make a run at this thing in 2022. Let's start off with the core. The core is strong. The Yankees have a lot of pieces that are not easy to come by. After years of searching, they finally got their top of the rotation starter, and maybe two, depending on how Luis Severino's health fares in 2022. They have some solid middle-of-the-rotation guys like Jordan Montgomery, a strong bullpen, and some young arms who are ready to take the next step or are nearly ready. We'll get more into the pitching staff in a few minutes. Let's not forget, though, they also have a pair of the most intimidating hitters in baseball, both of whom finished up very strong. But to say this team is one or two players away from a championship would be a bit of a stretch. One of the most essential pieces on the field is the starting shortstop position. He's the anchor of your infield, and right now it's Gio Urshela, who might be better suited for third base, and even there he's had some issues staying healthy and had kind of a down year in 2021. Center field and first base are also options for upgrades. Aaron Hicks and Luke Voit, respectively, are classic cases of great talent when healthy, but have difficulty staying on the field. And there's no reason to expect that that will change for the better this season. Gleyber Torres has had a pair of bad years, but a late season switch back to second base seemed to get his bat going a little bit, and I'm confident that the Yankees will keep him at second base, though he could be included in some kind of a trade package. DJ LeMahieu also had a tough season and required off-season hernia surgery, but where does he play? Based on the current depth chart, if Gio Urshela is your starting shortstop, then it kind of forces you to play DJ at third base. That's why I think some moves are coming. LeMahieu gets a lot of his value from being one of the great defensive players all over the diamond on any given day. And with COVID still in play for 2022, it makes sense to have as many versatile players as possible because you never know when guys are going to go on the IL for a week or so. At the onset of the offseason, Brian Cashman suggested that the Yankees were going to go after a shortstop to try and improve center field, and there have been rumors that suggest first base is in play. The two main shortstops getting the most attention so far have been Carlos Correa, a controversial superstar connected to the 2017 Astros cheating scandal, but undoubtedly one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball, and you could do a lot worse offensively. 7.2 WAR last season. By the way, he just hired super agent Scott Boras, so that is sure to factor in. Trevor Story is still in play, and there have been rumors that both the Yankees and the Red Sox were willing to offer him a one-year prove-it contract. This would give Story a chance to win right away, something he hasn't done much of in his career, while getting another chance to hit the open market next season with a normal offseason to negotiate with all of the teams and have plenty of time to do so. This comes with a huge risk, though. If he gets hurt, he might not get a big contract. If he has a bad year, he might not get a big contract. It's a risk. The Yankees were also linked prior to lockout to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who's kind of a defensive whiz. He's a really interesting guy to me. He can play catcher, he can play third base, and he can play shortstop, and he's fantastic wherever you put him. He's got one of the quickest releases of any infielder in the game, thanks in part, no doubt, to his time behind the plate trying to gun down runners. He's not much of a hitter, but for 1 year, you could do a lot worse. The Yankees do have some prospects on the way, most notably Anthony Volpe, who will begin the year in Double-A. Has a ton of power, a ton of speed. He's a first-round draft pick, And then you've also got Oswald Peraza, who's scheduled to begin the season in AAA. A lot of people think he could be a trade candidate, but it sounds as if Brian Cashman was unwilling to deal him before lockout. Things could change now, though, given the shortened period of roster construction. There are some other stopgap options like Andrelton Simmons, a defensive whiz whose offensive game in recent years has been an abomination. I don't think fans want Andrelton Simmons, but I could see Brian Cashman picking him up because he's always liked him. Seiya Suzuki is another name to keep your eye on. He's a superstar in Japan with elite strike zone recognition. He's got good power. He's tough to strike out. He's mostly been an elite corner outfielder, but he has played some center, not much. With the Martian just a couple of years away, I doubt the Yankees add any long-term solutions to center field, but Suzuki would add a lot of the aforementioned skills that we know the Yankees like, the patience and the ability to make contact, something they've needed in recent years. They also like to bring in guys from Japan because it adds an additional revenue stream. Also, during the lockout, we've seen a lot of talk about first base. Anthony Rizzo remains a free agent, and though he did a really solid job down the stretch last year after being traded from Chicago, fans seem to want Matt Olson from Oakland. He's another big, hairy monster, 6'5". He could easily hit 45 home runs in Yankee Stadium if you put him between Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, but the price seems pretty high. Freddie Freeman's negotiations with the Braves have been contentious, and though most of the industry doubt he would actually leave the Braves, anything is possible, especially during such a short window of roster construction. I'd say all bets are off. We've talked about the pitching before on this channel. The staff looks pretty solid on paper. There's an old aphorism in baseball, though, that you can never have enough pitching, and it's never been more true than in recent years as pitchers' velocities rise and as arms begin to be reconstructed at an alarming rate. Let's start with the bullpen. I think the Yankees have one of the strongest bullpens in baseball, and I like that they went out and got Clay Holmes and Wandy Peralta last year. Joely Rodriguez was re-signed this winter. These guys showed the ability to keep the ball on the ground, something that the Yankees are going to need since Zach Britton is out for the year. In case you missed it, he's having Tommy John surgery. Garrett Cole is your ace of the staff, and he had an ace-like year until he got hurt last season, still finished second in the Cy Young Award. If he stays healthy, I think he's going to have another dominant year. Luis Severino, another guy who you're counting on in the rotation, but who is a health risk. If he stays healthy, he's a legitimate number 2. If he doesn't stay healthy, it really puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the rotation, especially Jordan Montgomery and Domingo Germán, both of whom wore down at the end of the season. It'll be interesting to see if the Yankees go after another starting pitcher. I think they should. To me, Carlos Rodon is the best fit stuff-wise. He could break out and have that Robbie Ray-type season anytime now. You could argue that he had it last year. He posted a 2.37 ERA in 2021, but he also wore down the stretch. A lot of guys did, which is why depth is so important. A lot of people want the Yankees to trade for Luis Castillo. He's another guy with a dynamic arm and could be a real difference maker, but the Yankees are going to need to upgrade in several areas, as we mentioned, so it's a valid concern if you're worried about trading too many prospects. Frankie Montas could be in play as the Oakland A's unload several of their contracts and begin to rebuild. Could there be a massive blockbuster trade in the works that brings one of the A's top pitchers along with Matt Olson? Could Chris Bassett also be a possibility? If so, he's one of the more polished pitchers in the American League and would be a huge addition. The abbreviated spring training of 2020 seemed to affect the pitchers quite a bit, so I think you're going to see pitchers want to get to camp right away. Look for the pitching to be scooped up first, and since the Yankees have a full 40-man roster, you may see them make some kind of a major trade before they sign anyone. Bottom line, the Yankees have some work to do, and it's got to be done quickly if they want to win this season. The updates may happen fast. They should happen at all hours of the night. I'll do my best to post reaction videos as they happen. Stay tuned.